today's lesson is going to be how to make this really cute and quite easy credit card purse. You don't have to use it for credit cards, you can use it for anything you like. It has two openings here, so you have room to put your cards in. Put them up in there as well. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. So what we're going to need for today's lesson is a sewing needle, a pair of sharp scissors, a credit card to help us with our measurements, and also a hook and some yarn. You can use any yarn that you like and just use the hook that is recommended for your yarn. Also, we're going to need a button, doesn't matter what size, as we can adjust the loop to fit the button. For this project I'm actually using 2 strands of yarn at the same time to create this nice thick material, but I'm just going to demonstrate with the one so that it is easier for you guys to see. For this demo I'm using 8-ply wool and a 4mm crochet hook. You need to grab your credit card and we're going to make a chain that is just a little bit wider than our credit card. So there we go, we have our chain and it is about 1 centimetre bigger on each side. You want it a little bit bigger because we need to fit our cards in, and when we sew our material down we're going to need a little bit of a gap. So what we want to do now is half double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. So we don't count the one that's on our hook. This is number 1, 2 and 3. So wrapping our yarn, going into the chain, yarning over, pulling up a loop. We have 3 on our hook, yarning over and pulling through 3. Wrapping our yarn, going into the next chain, yarning over, pulling up a loop. We have 3 on our hook, yarning over and pulling through 3. Next one, yarning over, going into the next chain, yarning over, pulling up a loop, yarning over and pulling through all 3. You want to repeat this to the other end of our chain. So there we go, we have our first row. If this starts to curl a little bit, that's perfectly fine. It will straighten out as we go along. So what we want to do now is chain 2 and turning our work. We're going to half double crochet all the way across to the other side. And this row we are going to repeat it until it is long enough. And here's one I prepared earlier. And what we want to do is lay our card onto our strip. See, mine's a little bit wider than my card. That's alright. It'll be all good. So, folding it up and over, we want to make sure our card fits in there. So you'll just keep going until it's big enough to be able to do this. So that's that one done. And then grabbing our other side, putting it on the edge there, and then flipping it over. And you want to have a little bit of a gap here, so that's like 2 rows that I've got there that you don't fold it over and cover it up, so that when we fold it over like this, it's got a bit of a space there to be able to be folded up. It's not all bunched up. So to give you an idea on length, it's about 10.5 inches long or 27 centimeters. And the width is, and mine is actually a little bit too wide, but that's fine, I'm not that worried. We've got 5 inches or about 12.5 to 13 centimeters wide. So I actually, if I make another one, would make it probably 4.5 inches wide. So once we have our finished strip, we want to sew in all our ends. So now we want to sew up the side, so we just need to place our card and measure make sure we get it right. So now we want to grab some yarn and we want to sew up the edge there and here, and then down on the bottom edge there, leaving this center piece open. You can also crochet or slip stitch it together as well, but I'm going to sew mine. So after we finish sewing it or crocheting the sides down, you're going to fold it in half, making sure it is even. And then we are going to grab the yarn that you were using, and we're going to find the center of one of the sides. So I'm thinking that's about there. Going through some of the crochet stitches. Probably want to go through, so you've got quite a bit to grab onto. Now just making a loop out of your yarn, hooking it over there and pulling through, and then picking up your yarn and then just doing a chain to secure it. Pulling it down on the short piece, we'll bring that down and secure it down into there. So now you've got your button and you want to make a chain that is big enough for our loop. So just holding it down like that. See if your button will go through your loop, and it's not going to go through, so I need to do a few more chains. And then holding that like that, and now I've made it too big, so just this bit you'll just need to adjust it until your button fits. And don't forget, this loop will stretch a bit, so you don't want to make it too big. So that's mine. So now we want to go back down to where we attached it down here, going through again, and then we just need to make a slip stitch. So just pulling that through, and then just do another slip stitch, and then just cut off your yarn, and then just pull up your hook. And that should secure that down into there. So just pulling those short bits tight, we have our loop. So if you want, you can just tie a knot in there. Not a fan of tying knots into crochet work, but you're not going to notice that one. And then we just want to sew in our ends so that we can't see them. So just weaving it into our work. And doing the same for the other one. So now that we have our loop, we want to decide where we want to put our button. So grabbing your button, and this like a funky, it's really retro, and I'm sure this button is at least 20 years old. It's been in the family a long time, in a box of buttons. So figuring out where you want to put your button, you could put your button on the front like that, or you could put it up the top, just so you need to figure out where it needs to go. So I'm thinking mine might need to go in the front there, so that my loop can, yep. So I'm going to sew mine to the front of this fold here. So here we go, we have our little purse with our button and our little loop, and that will stretch a little bit over time. If it's a little bit tight now, don't panic too much. I think this is quite cute. So thanks guys for watching. Subscribe to my videos if you haven't already, because there will be future crochet tutorials. And make sure you leave a comment or a video response in the boxes below. And until next time, have a great day.